gonna leave with more than you already did know.
Dad, wake up. Let's go back.
There's no school.
No,
Coronavirus.
get up.
There's coronavirus. There's no school.
No, your math show. Get up.
The math show! When looking around my house, I can find many types of parallelograms, but it's really hard to find a rhombus, which is also a parallelogram. Parallelogram. This is not a parallelogram. This entire box is made out of parallelograms. Each face here is a parallelogram.
That's a parallelogram.
This is not a parallelogram. This is a parallelogram.
That's a parallelogram.
This is not a parallelogram. This is a parallelogram.
That's a parallelogram.
You guys saw a few examples of what a parallelogram is and isn't, and there's a little bit more to it though. Check out this parallelogram. This is a rhombus. Really hard to find rhombuses in your house. Opposite sides are parallel. Opposite sides are congruent. They're the same measure or length. And the opposite angles are also congruent. A couple more facts for you.
That's a parallelogram.
One formula for all parallelograms. It's right there. When I was growing up, there were separate formulas for squares, rectangles, rhombuses, and you mix them all up and you forget things, right? One formula for all parallelograms.
It's not a parallelogram. This is a parallelogram.
That's a parallelogram. That's a parallelogram.
Our first parallelogram is a square. Opposite sides are parallel and opposite angles are congruent. Opposite sides are also congruent.
Let's measure this bad boy. I got a 5 by 5. You want to take that formula, write it out. Area equals base times height. See, I wrote my variables next to each other, like we learned in algebra. If I have two variables next to each other, it means multiplication. And now I can put my numbers in. Area equals, the base was 5, and the height was 5, and we just multiply it. Area of this parallelogram, also known as a square, is 25 squared inches. There's literally squared inches, you know, like a little square. There's 25 of them. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Square. Parallelogram. Area formula. Base times height. Let's go to our next shape here. I already measured this one. It's a 5 by 8. And this side here is our height. And our height equals 5. And the base down here is... base is 8 inches. Let's do it again. Start with the formula first. Area equals base times height. So area equals, the base was 8. The height was 5. Area equals 40. Is area square area. How many squares? 40 squared inches, or 40 inches squared. Say it either way. Parallelogram number 2, aka rectangle, is wrecked. We wrecked it. See ya. Recycle that later. Alright, check this one out. This is the rhombus. It looks different than a rectangle and a square. Why is it different? Can you explain it? Do you guys see these angles? These are not 90 degrees anymore. It's a different measure. These are acute angles here, and these are obtuse. So it looks a little bit different. You think it would need a different formula. But in actuality, we can create a rectangle from this. Watch this. I'm gonna cut it right up the height. Line here. Now if I take this shape and I scooch it over here, or snooch it over there. I'm not sure if I made that word up or I got it from one of my friends. But look at that. We just created a rectangle But the original numbers were the same. It actually has the same height as it did before, right here. And the base, this line here, which we'd use for the base, is exactly the same as this line here. So it has the same measure for the base and same measure for the height. So we just use, for parallelograms like this, rhombuses or rhombi, we can just use base times height.
One formula for all parallelograms.
It's area equals base times height. So area equals, I already measured the base, it's actually 6 inches. 6, and then the height is 5. And that's 30. 30 squared inches. Rhombus, see you later.
Level 2, activate finding missing links of a parallelogram.
We're going to need some algebra. Our formula is an algebraic equation, so we're going to need to use our algebra skills here.
For problem number 1, we're only going to do 2. Find the height if the area is 15 units squared. So take a look at that parallelogram. We don't know the height. It's represented with an H. We do know that the 3 is a number, and we only have base and height, so it must be the base. The base is always perpendicular to the height, so b equals 3. So we got a couple facts here. So find the height if the area is 15 units squared. Let's just start with the formula here and see what happens. Area equals base times height. And let's plug in some stuff. The area is 15. Let's put a 15 in for A. And the base we do know. The base is 3. And the height, that's what we're looking for. So let's just represent it with an H. Alright, in algebra, all we're trying to do is isolate the variable. And right now on that right side, the variable is being multiplied by 3. So let's divide both sides by 3 and see what we get. Gotta maintain equality. 5 units equals H, or H equals 5 units. Alright, here's one more. Another rhombus. Doesn't matter if it was a square or a rectangle. We're going to do the same thing. So, yeah, opposite sides are parallel. And we don't know the height this time either. And they give us a 9 and an 8. Which one's the base? You know, so I'm thinking to myself, okay, you know, the area is 54 units squared. Okay. And find the height. Alright, just like the last one. Start with the formula. Area equals base times height. So let's plug in what we know. Area is 54 units. Ching! Base, do we know the base? Which one's the base, the 8 or the 9? Well, the height right there in yellow is going up and down, so I need something right and left to make it perpendicular. The 8 is kind of not perpendicular, but the 9 is perpendicular to the height. That line is. See that? 90 degrees? That means the height is really 9 and not 8. So let's plug a 9 in for the base and represent the height with an H still. And that's what we're solving for. Now we need to isolate the H, so that's 9 times H. So what do we need to do to get rid of that 9? Yeah, inverse operation would be division. Divide both sides by 9. And on the right, we get 1 times H, and that's H. And on the left, 54 divided by 9 is 6. And that's units. So 6 units. There it is. Not too bad. Using a little bit of algebra in geometry.
This is not a parallelogram.
One formula for all parallelograms. Hey, that's it for the math show today. Boom! Parallelograms. Hopefully you learned a few things about them. Don't be like this guy. This guy actually made a TikTok, and he didn't quite know what a trapezoid was. So what did he do? He made a parallelogram. SMH.
Trapezoid? More like I'm trapped inside because of coronavirus.
See you next time on the Math Show. Show.